Welcome to IoTalks, your source for real talks with real builders in the blockchain and IoT industry. I'm your host, Larry. Over the past 2 years, IoTeX has built a state-of-the-art blockchain from scratch. But IoTex's vision is more than just blockchain. The design of IoTeX also incorporates innovations in secure hardware and data services that will power unique privacy and IoT products. Decentralized identity, trusted IoT data oracles, trusted computing, and IoT data marketplaces, just to name a few. So how does the IoTeX platform combine these components to create foundational products for developers? What is the future roadmap for IoTeX in 2019 and 2020? We answer all of these questions and more in this special IoTalks with IoTeX co-founders Raullen and Xinxin. Please enjoy. Hey there everyone, welcome to IoTalks. Today we have a very special internal version of IoTalks for you with co-founders Xinxin and Raullen. So, the point of this one is to really give an update on the IoTeX roadmap and just the basic future of IoTeX as a whole. But before we dive into that, for those that are new to the community, I want to give these guys a chance to introduce themselves. Maybe start with Raullen.
Sure. So Raullen, CEO and co-founder of IoTeX. We started this project almost 2 years ago. And recently we have like a meetup here in our office actually to celebrate the second anniversary of IoTeX.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Xinxin?
Hello everyone, I'm Xinxin. I'm head of cryptography at IoTeX, mainly leading the research and some development activities here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, everyone on the team has been super busy lately, so I just thought we'd start with some casual catch-ups with these guys to see what they've been up to. Obviously, we just published this very comprehensive roadmap update, kind of telling about the future, but what's been going on in the past couple months for you guys?
Yeah, there was lots going on in the past few weeks.
Yeah.
And even months, right? So I think for the blockchain part, we launched like the mainnet alpha back in April 22nd, but still we are like marching towards like a mainnet beta, which will be end of September. So there will be lots of small features to be added to this chain. For example, like a very good one is we want to reduce the block period from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, right? So that seems to be simple, but there are lots of work behind. We have to test it out. If like 5 seconds, we still have a very high success rate for the consensus. And what will happen if it fails, right? Can we recover type of thing? So this is like one big feature we're going to ship out. And there are also like other things. I think when we go through the roadmap, you guys will know like what concrete things we're working on.
Yeah, you just got back from Chicago also kind of presenting some IoTeX vision with Trusted IoT Alliance. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so that was a very, very good conversation with the TIOTA folks. So I'm not sure how much context we have been given to the audience about TIOTA, but TIOTA is like a full name is called Trusted IoT Alliance, which was founded actually by two co-founders. One is one guy from Bosch, and another guy from Cisco. And also they have like lots of industry companies around this one. For example, ARM, which is like a biggest like a chip manufacturers in the world, and also Marsh, which is like a big consulting firm. They all joined this TIOTA, actually trying to figure out how should we do the blockchain plus IoT, right? So I have had lots of intelligent conversations with those folks in terms of how IoTeX can help to grow their business, right? Try to get their IoT devices onto blockchain and generate more economic returns around that one.
Yeah, so a lot of work going on internally on the tech side, but also starting to show IoTeX technology to a lot of these standards organizations. Like we have a big September planned actually. We're going to be at two kind of more academic conferences, right? One for the IEEE and one for the Industrial Internet Consortium, which are very highly regarded in the traditional IoT space. And Xinxin is going to give some presentations at the IIC on some of the work he's been doing. So maybe just share some of the things on secure hardware and also decentralized identity that you've been working on.
So past few months we are very busy for all the different aspects of our ecosystems. One big piece is the secure hardware. We have been working very hard, also together with our team in China, try to build a few pieces of secure hardware. Although we are small startups, so we have put a lot of effort on this aspect. Our planning is to release a few secure hardware in the following months. However, a lot of challenges still need to be solved before we make sure it's reached to the good status for the secure hardware. I think it's a critical step for building really trusted IoT networks together with blockchain ecosystem.
Awesome. So yeah, we just talked about a lot of things, and we'll go through one by one, kind of just walking you through this roadmap update we have. So, just to start is kind of presenting IoTeX in a new light, right? Not just as a blockchain, but more of as a decentralized and IoT-oriented platform with all these different components. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? Kind of what the vision overall for blockchain and IoT and IoTeX is, and kind of how these components really come together.
Okay. Yeah. Like I personally I think we both together we experienced this hype starting from 2017 all the way up to 2018, right? 2 years hype. And when the hype is almost gone, people stop and also to think it over. What can blockchain do, right, in real life to create real values for real business use cases? And we found that there is a very big gap between blockchain and the real business. Blockchain itself is essentially a decentralized data store, although it's not very good at storing big amount of data, right? But it still is a decentralized data store and it provides immutability, trust, and a certain type of programmability on top of that. But still, it's a very, very back-end technology. So meaning, people cannot use it, right? So for example, if you are using your phone, some apps, some games on your phone right now, so you will not realize on the back end, so it's used MySQL database, it's used another probably a Redis SQL database. I think blockchain will have a very similar situation down the road. So that's why we started to think about if we already have a blockchain up there and running very well, so what's the missing pieces we should put in here to make a real business to flow around, right? So that's why we have this new roadmap, which basically targets more on the framework, on the architecture of the whole thing, rather than the blockchain itself. Of course, blockchain will be the root of trust and very important piece for this entire architect, but it's already here, it's already working very well. So that's why we want to put a little bit more resource into the layers on top of the blockchain. For example, this is a data service layer. I will maybe give another explanation about this data service layer momentarily, and also this secure hardware all the way up to the IoT, IoT space, right? So that's the architect that we're focusing right now, at least from now to the next year.
Right. So this platform is kind of composing a lot of different technologies all coming together to really bridge blockchain and IoT to solve real-world business problems and real-world, even consumer problems as well. So, I think this first section of our roadmap update, we talk about, the future of IoTeX really involves fusing secure hardware and data services with the blockchain layer that we've been building for the past couple of years. So a lot of the work we have in the future not only covers finishing our blockchain, but also integrating the secure hardware and data services to really create these real products that Raullen is talking about. So the way we kind of explain this is we have these platform components, which are blockchain, secure hardware, and data services, which kind of come together to form foundational products for developers that they can use, hopefully right out of the box in the future, which are decentralized identity, trusted IoT data oracles, trusted computing, and finally IoT data marketplaces. So, in this kind of overview, we're going to cover all of those things from the components and also the foundational products, and hopefully give you an idea of just the level of detail that we're going into to really develop a lot of these, develop our platform and our network. So just to start off, on the blockchain side, a lot of our community is very familiar with the work in the past couple of years. We've launched 4 testnet releases, 1 mainnet alpha launch now, and the mainnet's running great. So what is coming next for the blockchain side?
Yeah, I think our roadmap is like this. We will have a mainnet beta in the coming September, and then we'll have a GA next year, early next year. The strategy here is we want to maintain the mainnet in a very good shape and gradually adding like new features which will be very helpful to like facilitate this IoT platform from this perspective to the blockchain platform gradually, right? So I think like as I mentioned, like one big feature we will have in September is like reduces block time to 5 seconds. There are other features around that. For example, we are adding more analytic features to the blockchain as well, because we want to make the blockchain to be visualized and visible to lots of people, not just like running on the back end, right? And also like an API, developer kit, those things, even like the wallet. IOP should be like another big one. So that's, generally speaking, that's about the blockchain.
Right. So mainnet beta is going to come with reduced block time and also some EVM upgrades and other incremental features, I think. But yeah, it seems like, a lot of the work we even had planned for mainnet beta, meaning like the increase from 12 to 36 consensus delegates, it seems like we're almost ahead of schedule on the blockchain side. So mainnet beta will be incremental improvements and also include some very critical features like reduced block time. But looking forward to early 2020 with mainnet GA. That's going to be our big kind of official launch of the IoTeX mainnet. So what can the community expect kind of between now and GA?
Yeah, I think that like a very big initiative at this, as we're planning, is trying to move all the governance, staking, voting part essentially back to the IoTeX network to make like a unified user experience. Like for now, we will have like two type of tokens, both floating around, and one is doing staking and one is doing like utility, right? We got lots of feedback from users saying, this is like a very fragmented user experience, so I want like one wallet to do all, right? So that's why, that's reason one. Another reason, what I feel like is our blockchain gets more and more secured and matured. So we're like, the initial reason for launching using Ethereum as our like portal for voting and staking is because it's more stable and secure. So we want to anchor the security of IoTeX native blockchain on top of Ethereum, right? But it looks like this phase has been like gradually phased out. So we have like a more security, maturity, and also confidence building to the IoTeX blockchain now. So that's why like we will move back everything back to the native blockchain. So that's a really big initiative for the GA.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think until then we're launching a lot of new features, really focus on usability for developers and for end users, right? And I think also in mainnet GA will come layer 2 chain SDKs. Until then, we're going to definitely be releasing a lot of new DApp kind of scaffolders and DApp tools to make people allow developers to create DApps more easily, and working with some partners to create custom layer 2 chains, but kind of in GA trying to have the framework to develop the real SDK for layer 2 chains. Yeah, in addition, a lot of products and tools, as Raullen was mentioning, we are always constantly improving our explorers, our wallets, different web SDKs, and also integrating with a lot of different services and tools. So, we have plans for Chainlink and neutral USD. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that before we dive into the next category?
Yes, for the neutral USD, actually they are onboarding right now. So I think the technical work is almost done. The remaining part is how do we work with neutral dollar, this project on the marketing side, to launch this product in a meaningful way, right? So in order to do that, we're going to find like the first or maybe first 2 use cases for NUSD on top of the IoTeX blockchain.
Right.
I think we already identified like both of them, but still need some time to to get everything like ironed out. So the first use case will be some like gamings, especially IoT type of gaming that use NUSD as the underlying currency for playing. And another one, which we actually incubated like a small project, is what they have is like this insurance, DeFi type of a DeFi insurance that running on top of the IoTeX blockchain, but still tied to the IoT world, meaning how to use the data that gets collected from the IoT world to do the insurance. I think NUSD will be very, very useful here as well.
Right.
Yeah, Chainlink will have the similar fashion actually. So we will still like identify some use cases for Chainlink to be working on IoTeX blockchain. I think this insurance app will be one of them. Yeah, generally speaking, I think they are on very good shape right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see all these kind of components coming together, like Chainlink with the oracles, NUSD with the stablecoin integrations, and obviously a lot of things going on in IoTeX Blockchain. So starting to see some real holistic products, not just kind of simple, kind of isolated proof points, right? So definitely stay tuned for more things on the blockchain side. But I think a lot of the community is familiar with what we've done on the blockchain side, but not as much on the secure hardware side. We've been hinting at some of the things with Avo Board and with Trusted Tracker, but in this blog post, we really introduced three novel concepts. One is the IO Tracker, which we're actually going to be launching first in September, and the second one is Avo Board, which community is very familiar with. That's kind of our privacy engine and IoT gateway product. And then finally, we're also doing some things, interesting things with internet protocol cameras and decentralized identities. So we're going to have Xinxin kind of walk through each of those things and kind of explain from his perspective, what those are and why it's important when combined with the blockchain that Raullen just mentioned. So, just to kick it off, I think I'm personally very excited for this IO Tracker, something very practical and something that I think people can really get behind. So do you want to share from your perspective, what is IO Tracker?
So IO Tracker basically, I think, is the first trusted GPS tracker on the market. We are currently focusing on. So IO Tracker combines the trusted secure microcontroller together with 4G LTE and NB-IoT. Together, it's a integrated, highly integrated chip. So this tracker basically combines the GPS coordinates together with multiple sensors on the tracker board to provide the trusted environmental data, motion data, as well as your location data to the backend. So this is like the major features for this.
Right, and I think the features that you're mentioning are very interesting, right? But one thing that really differentiates our product from the others on the market is not just because it's a blockchain product, but it's also because of kind of the security we built into the endpoint itself.
Yes.
Which a lot of the trackers on the market, I've been looking at the specs, don't really have the same kind of security architecture and also the back-end security. So you kind of explain what that means, and as far as both security in the cloud and security on the edge device.
Okay, so actually the IoTeX vision is to provide end-to-end trust. That's our ultimate goal for all of our IoT ecosystem and the blockchain systems. So that's why the security hardware is an end device. It's a single piece for collecting data in a trusted worthy way. Okay, that's the first step you collect. When you collect the data, that's the first step you get the trusted data. That's only the end device, and we also have the hybrid backend combined with the cloud and blockchain, which will be used for the different purpose. For example, for storing data security or provide the data integrity. That's different pieces in our backend systems. So in order to ensure the security or trustworthy of the entire system, you have to keep every step or every link to be secure. So that's why we have the secure end hardware piece, and also we have secure gateway, as well as the secure backend. So only when you combine all those pieces together, you can really ensure the end-to-end trust. I think that's a key point for our security architecture and how we realize the IoT security in the proper way.
Right. No, it's we're kind of doing all the steps, right? It's a device, the gateway, and the server itself to really build that end-to-end trust. But for people that are new to the term secure hardware, right? I think it's like almost a buzzword a little bit by now. Like, what does secure hardware mean to you guys? As deep cryptography experts, you guys have a different view of what secure means than the traditional viewer, right? It's not just being tamper-proof, but it's also covering all these attack vectors. So, maybe explain from your perspective what secure hardware actually means.
So secure hardware is like you have a piece of hardware. That's the first thing. The second component is you have to add some security chips on your hardware
Mm-hmm.
to protect your key. So for many IoT devices on the market, the reason they are not secure is mostly due to the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So many products they have very low cost. They did not put a lot of security countermeasures on the hardware level to protect the entire device.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they either write the key directly with their firmware, which can be easily extracted
Mm-hmm.
by the hacker once they bought your device, or they did very poor protection for the key, especially when you talk with the backend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the attacking factors currently have been played by the attacker to really compromise the IoT product.
Mm-hmm.
I think from the high level perspective, to building a secure hardware, it's like you need a piece of a secure chip to protect your key. Also doing some protocol in a secure fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you need to protect your system in the operating system level,
Mm-hmm.
to really build the different layers of fence to block the attacker from penetrating into your system.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a great transition over into AvoBoard because I think a lot of our community has questions around what is the work that's required to make AvoBoard usable.
Mm-hmm.
And you just described a lot of this middleware and a lot of these security architecture that has to be built and linked, kind of integrated into the hardware. It's not just you can use this hardware out of the box.
Yeah.
That's not really innovating on much, right? So you kind of explain the work from now until AvoBoard launch, maybe closer to the end of 2019,
Okay.
regarding like what kind of things need to be built so that it's easier for developers to really start using AvoBoard.
Okay. For the AvoBoard piece, our plans, we are currently we are further refining the design for the AvoBoard. There are two major goals we try to reach. First is we will change the design a little bit to make the AvoBoard more easier to combine with different IoT connectivity technology. For example, Zigbee, the NFC, and other different wireless communication technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to reach the goal that you can buy a piece of the wireless connectivity module,
Mm-hmm.
and you plug into the AvoBoard, then that will become the gateway for that particular IoT communication technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to use the AvoBoard as a secure IoT gateway.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you can talk with different type of IoT device by using the connectivity modules, and securely forward the information you collected from the device to our backend. So that's a secure IoT gateway piece. The other application scenario for the AvoBoard is we use as a general purpose secure computing platform.
Mm-hmm.
So in this piece, basically, AvoBoard will provide a secure computing environment
Mm-hmm.
to realize some general purpose, like privacy preserving computation. For example, to doing some edge computation for the IoT data collected,
Mm-hmm.
such like this kind of applications. So in this model, our blockchain piece basically will control all the data flow from our board
Mm-hmm.
and doing the orchestration in this scenario.
Right.
It's basically two type of applications. Yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah. So AvoBoard, I think we've introduced it in light versions, but the roadmap for AvoBoard is we're gonna probably announce the white paper late Q3, early Q4, and then start to issue more demos and proof of concepts throughout Q4 2019 and build out that middleware and usability for developers, hopefully doing pre-order or distribution of AvoBoards late 2019. And finally, the last piece around the hardware side is we're doing something very interesting with IP cameras, IP video cameras, basically injecting decentralized identities that we're kind of developing a framework for into real-world IoT devices and kind of in partnership with a large IoT manufacturer partner. But we'll dive more into that later in the discussion around decentralized identity. But just to share kind of the sequence of our secure hardware launches, the goal is to educate the industry about secure hardware, which is still pretty new for most folks. we want to be the first company to ship real TEE-based products and secure hardware. So not just in the blockchain industry, but also in the traditional IoT industry. And then finally, give a very nice intuitive onboarding process for developers. So that's kind of the work going on the secure hardware side. And the last piece of this kind of platform components is on data services. And I think this stems from a question that a lot of people ask is, IoT generates so much data, and blockchain is not the data structure that's cost effective or reasonable to put all that data on. So what's the solution?
Yeah, so we're having this added to our roadmap is because after talking with lots of manufacturers, vendors, IoT industry people, and we start to realize, they have such a requirement where they need this data to be stored in a very cost-effective way. Apparently, it's not blockchain, and also in a very privacy preserving way. They probably don't want to share the data with others on the market. So that's why we come up with this design about this data services, and we validated the concept, the design with some of these vendors, manufacturers, and they all like it. So from a very high level, we can see this data services as a container. So this container can be a public container, right? Everybody can read and write from this container. And this container itself can be like a cloud service, right? Can be instantialized as a cloud service. And another form of this container could be like a private hold type of container. If one manufacturer wants to have such a container, then he will just start maybe some internal, some a backend services which can host this data within their a premium. And then there will be anyone who can access this data and control this data.
Right.
And also another requirement we do learn from those industry folks is probably in certain scenarios they want two private hold containers to have some type of interaction. For example, they want to do some joint computing to produce some meaningful result which can generate economic returns. So that's why we have this design, and we will also have our trusted computing technology to be part of this data services. So once it's enabled, people can do some privacy preserving queries on top of our trusted computing products, which will tap into those two private data containers, fetch the data, do a privacy preserving computation, and return the results. Right. So that's the whole view for this data container. But to be honest, we are not doing kind of S3 type of thing from scratch. We will mostly leverage what's already there on the market. For example, S3 from AWS, GCS from Google, OSS from Ali Cloud, and even this BlueZilla we just have a partnership with. So they're a global type of storage system based on blockchain. Will be the backend for this data container. So what we will be doing is adding a very thin layer in front of those technologies to make it, like I said, can do some trusted computing, can do some access control. So that's our vision.
Yeah, so it's a nice combination of on-chain data, which is more transactional data, accounts, and then using those kind of permissions to define who gets access to the off-chain data, which is more stored in the cloud. So I think you just summarized it very well around how these components really come together. It's almost like the blockchain is controlling a lot of these secure hardware, call them slaves, I guess, right? They're just trusted third-party devices that are orchestrated by the blockchain. And also on the data side, it's kind of, you think about database, it's kind of the blockchain will be the one that controls who can access that off-chain data. Maybe there's a more technical way to explain it, but how do you kind of summarize the way these platform components come together?
I would say the blockchain is the basic, right? So you can think as the how should I say, a government for this entire decentralized world, right? So it can govern how this storage things works, how this access control works, and also it governs how the secure hardware works in that respective. So, and then this data services and the secure hardware are mostly those functional teams or maybe functional departments in this a decentralized land. They produce a certain type of services to make the real business operations to be possible. So that, for example, this data services at least it can provide some storage capability, some analytical capability, and also trusted computing. While this secure hardware will be, hired, those hardware will be actually hired to do some very concrete tasks to improve the entire privacy for this decentralized land.
Yeah.
Right. So they are interconnected, but the blockchain is really the brain, or maybe like a centralized government for this decentralized world.
Right. Yeah, so that's kind of the full stack, the full IoTeX platform with those three components like blockchain, secure hardware, and data services. But the combination of these components as kind of forms the IoTeX platform, but they also form these very unique foundational products that a lot of people are working on maybe as standalone as their entire company's goal, but we kind of see these as capabilities for developers to use in the future. And just to start off, kind of the combination of secure hardware and also blockchain kind of gives rise to decentralized identity for devices. And this is something obviously Xinxin has been working on. So how would you explain decentralized identity as a concept, and why is it important for IoT devices to have decentralized identities?
So yeah, if you look at the current IoT market, it's largely fragmented, right? So every company has their own device identifier, or their own schema for define those, right? So when you bring all those different type of device to the blockchain world, so you need something like a universal way to identify each of them. So that's a fundamental layer you have to build in order to bring everything together.
Right.
So decentralized identity basically provide your framework how you can bring the different things, or beside the device also the people who control those devices together into this virtual market.
Right.
So with this decentralized identity, people can easily discover the service provided by the other device. Globally. Yeah.
Right.
So this is a basic concept why we need this layer. So basically, provide the universal way to identify the different things. Also, open the opportunity to provide service.
Right.
And connect the different pieces together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because if you want to have trusted data, you first have to trust the devices that they're coming from, and without an identity for those devices, that's not possible. So do you want to talk about the trusted data part? So this is something that is very near and dear to AvoBoard, is kind of using this concept of trusted IoT data oracles. So once we have identities for these devices, now we're grabbing data from those. So you want to explain kind of our approach to oracles and how it might be different from others?
Okay, so our approach to oracles basically is based on the secure IoT device. So we want to ensure the data collected by the IoT device can be trustworthy. That's why we only trust the data collected by the secure IoT hardware, which will be digitally signed by the hardware internally when they collect the data. So we will have the trust application running in the trust room, which connect to all those like sensors or other peripherals when they're collecting the data. So in this way, we can ensure so this piece of data is collected by that particular secure hardware. So all those data, we also have some backend protocols to doing the data aggregation, also provide the proof to show why those data can be trustworthy.
Right. So all the way from the real world data to its use in IoTeX smart contracts is kind of, again, ensuring that end-to-end trust.
Yes.
Right? So you mentioned trusted applications. So once we have the trusted devices and once we have the trusted data, now all of that can be used in trusted computing. So again, that's another capability of not just AvoBoard, but also about, we're working a little bit with SGX on the server side. So kind of this concept of Raullen likes to say, the zoo of TEEs. Do you guys want to explain what that zoo kind of means and what the future vision for that for us is?
So basically, we want to combine the different type of the secure hardware in the market, because if you look at this zoo of TEEs, they are full of trusted hardwares with different computational capabilities, storage capabilities. Usually, when you consider secure hardware, the number of interfaces exposed will affect the security level. So like the smart card you're using for your banking purpose of every day, you see it's a very small chip, but they only doing the very single or very simple functions. So they build a very strong secure fence for this secure hardware. However, that's a trade-off between the processing capability and attacker interface. So the second layer is like the trust zone-based secure hardware, like our board we are building. It has relatively more powerful computational power. However, also has a trade-off there. They have more attacking interface. That's so once your processing capability become more complex, you need to expose more interface to talk with the outside world, to exchange the data, to access a certain system call. This trend will continue when you build the more bigger scale secure hardware like Intel SGX. They have relatively more powerful computational capability, but they have a lot of interface to talk with the outside world.
Right.
So this rule of the trusted hardware, you see the trade-off between the computational capability, storage capability, also the number of exposed interface. So which will provide you the different level of secure service when you consider using those different hardwares.
Right.
We see the real world applications, people usually require the different type of service depending on how sensitive their data is. Right? So that's why we think this quite makes sense. We build this type of rule of secure hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, actually, I want to take a step back to talk about like a DID, right? So what's the rationale for us to do DID, right? So I saw like a paradigm shift here. So in the traditional world, how does this work is very centralized, depending on PKICA, right? So for example, this Robert here. So if it wants to go live, it has to ask the CA to issue a cert. So it will, like the CA will
CA is certificate authority.
Certificate authority is like a government, right? Basically give you something, say, oh, okay, so you're Alice, you're Bob. Then he can go out of the door and show all the other people, so I'm Alice, I'm Bob, because I have this, government issue ID. So that's the traditional world. So in the DID world, decentralized world, so this is very different. So what it has is, this guy will produce like a passport, let's say a passport, right, for himself. So then he will have this passport controlled by himself, totally controlled by himself. But he can go to like a different CS, different governments, say, oh, I need a visa to enter this country, so can you get me a stamp on it, right? So the government say, okay, yes, I'll get a stamp, and then he can go to another country saying, oh, so because I have this stamp here, so probably I can enter your country as well. So this is such a paradigm shift.
Right.
Like he has whole control of his passport book, let's say, right? He has, and also later he can grant access to maybe certain pages of the passport. For example, some people want to take a look like where you have been, right, in the past few years. Or he can share some page of his passport to this guy for a period of time, saying, oh, okay, you can access my data because I issue a token per se, right? So I think everything is actually around this passport, and all the data collected is actually around this passport, which this guy has like a full control. So this is a very, very powerful model compared to those CA controlled type of thing.
Definitely, it's kind of putting the destiny in their own hands. It's like they can collect as many stamps as they want, and the more stamps that they have is kind of defining that trust score. If you have enough stamps from enough authorities, then the next authority is more likely to believe you when you register, right?
That's very true. Actually, there are a few crypto projects who's working on this for human being. For example, Uport, I think, is a very early, started like a project, has been there 3-4 years, doing DID for for people, for human being. But I guess IoTeX is the first one who's putting this into like a device world, which actually makes more sense, I feel like. Because given this massive amount of devices, given like their decentralized nature, right? So like having them to take control of their own world, that's at least my vision for the future.
Yeah. And this kind of extends into the last foundational product, which is IoT Data Marketplace. So this is actually a combination of blockchain and I guess data services, and also the data that's coming from secure hardware. But it's almost saying that I'm allowing certain decentralized identities or certain people with the right number of stamps to access my data, whether it's buy, sell, trade, or share. So explain kind of, I guess, the importance of a decentralized data marketplace as far as kind of in our future plans for it.
Right, right. So for the data marketplace, that's definitely like a plan down the road, but that's not our high priority right now because we're still building those foundation layers
Yeah.
as of now, right? But in the future, once we have all like the storage there, DID deployed, actually like we will have a lot of IP cams to have our DID actually burning too. So then we can talk about this IoT data marketplace. So this will be extremely like a new like a stuff. I think no one has been everything the same. Like
Yeah, it's a lot of incentive design.
Exactly. Like we have been like talking with these ideas a lot. For example, if you have installed your IP cam, which has decentralized identity and can control its own data within like for example a mall, maybe you can charge for people if they just come across, I don't know, for some reason, and maybe you can tell your like a HVAC, which is like an air conditioner, to turn on and off based upon like the density of crowd you see here. Right, lots of interesting stuff can be done here to like further increase the productivity for our society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very ambitious goal.
Yeah, and it definitely comes back to the original purpose of what we're doing here is to use blockchain and IoT to solve real world problems, right? So we covered a lot of the platform components. We talked about the foundational products, and I just want to reiterate the importance of the end-to-end trust, where trusted devices with decentralized identities kind of produce trusted data, and feeding that data into the blockchain with oracles, and then that data is kind of used in trusted computing and ultimately in the future exchanged on trusted IoT data marketplaces. So that's kind of our version of end-to-end, and I think I think that's overall the roadmap that we have ahead. So with that, I want to thank Raullen and Xinxin for taking the time to really explain some of the rationale as far as the new roadmap and the new priorities. Before we sign off, any final thoughts on the road ahead for IoTeX?
Yeah, so we have a very ambitious roadmap here, I would think. But like I do not want like set a very high expectation for like we're getting everything done within a couple of months. That's basically impossible. So each of those components will take some time to be designed, very thoughtfully designed, and also to be implemented flawlessly and then put into production. But we do like my personal philosophy is we will do blockchain as a base layer and probably 2-3 layers on top of blockchain. Then we can reach like the real business, the real IoT business here. And what we will do is we will like focus on a very very niche, very vertical for this entire landscape. Like we cannot do too much because we only have this many people and this many resources so far. But we will do like one very good vertical and make it work.
Right.
And then like we will have in our mind how this business should be, how this tech stack should be, right? Then we can expand to other areas as well. So that's what we are doing at a company level.
Yeah, and I think hopefully once we start to dive into that niche vertical, it will inspire other people in their community to tackle other niche verticals, right? I think we're building a lot of these foundational products so that developers in the future can do the same concepts that we're trying to build, right? I think the great thing about these foundational products is it's not one IoT vertical specific, right? Every IoT use case pretty much requires decentralized identities, trusted computing, not requires, but can utilize these things to really transform the way they do business today. So we see a lot of new business models emerging just centered around privacy and trust and trying to build out the infrastructure to allow people to really capture that value. So Xinxin, any final thoughts for the community?
Yeah, I think like Raullen mentioned, we have very ambitious roadmap here. A lot of work need to be further down to reach our ultimate goal. I think this is a very good combinations to really build the end-to-end trust for the IoT future. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, stay tuned for more announcements. We'll have more blog posts really digging into the details of all the things we talked about today. And definitely stay tuned to our official channels, and Thank you for tuning into this special version of IoTalks, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.